Welcome to Election Special Primary 2014. This is a production of Sonny Hirsch. I'm your host, Avi Myers. As all of you know, we really try to emphasize judicial candidates. We will have done over 60 different judicial interviews by the time the day is over. And I mean, not 60 interviews today, but 60 interviews over the course of the election season. Actually, 14 interviews today, which is quite a bit. I can't begin to emphasize how much a judge can change your life in so many different ways, whether it's your freedom, whether it's your marriage, whether it's, getting the bad guy off the street, your life. It can affect just about anything. It's a very important business. And let me emphasize to all of you that if you're voting Democrat, and that's really the only place to vote this, and I'm not a Democrat either, I'm not a Republican either, but the fact is all the contested races this year are on the Democratic side, except for one very unimportant election for governor that won't affect your life as much as a judge will, on the Republican side. And frankly, if you want your choice between Drek, and Drek, you can go vote in the Republican primary. But the fact is, I'm going to take a Democratic ballot, I'm going to vote for the judges. And I suggest, so many people get lazy. They start at the top of the ballot, and there's 34 uncontested races on the top of the ballot, which doesn't make any sense. But if you want the contested races, go to the bottom. Start at the bottom of the judicial ballot. That's the very bottom of the ballot, and there you will find tons of races. They are contested. There is a serious difference in the quality of the candidates. You can pick up Jewish Chicago. There is a very thorough election analysis, by far the longest and most detailed election analysis I've ever written. And on that particular analysis, I tap into over 20 different legal and judicial experts, including sitting judges at all levels. And I should have told my joke, which is hide the women and children, Jewish Chicago's in town. But it's more important to get to my guests. It is my pleasure to introduce to you, and he's been on the show before, and I will say that our parents share a fellow ancestry, and that is Lithuanian. And he actually was in Lithuania not that long ago. Judge Peter Vilkelis. How are you?
I'm fine, Avi. Thanks for having me.
First of all, thank you for coming, and sorry about the long intro, but in any event, why don't you tell us, this is an election special, not the regular show, so I want to make sure everybody knows your background.
Well, I'm born and raised in Chicago. I've went to University of Illinois at Chicago. I have a BA in criminal justice. I went to John Marshall Law School, where I got my law degree in 1980. I was then hired by the Cook County State's Attorney's Office in 1981, and I worked as a prosecutor for 9 years. I worked in criminal appeals. I worked in juvenile court. I worked my way up till 26th in California, and when I left the office in 1990, I was a first chair prosecutor in one of the felony courtrooms at 26th Street. I then went into solo private practice, where I concentrated my practice in defending people in federal and state court and criminal cases. And then in February of 2011, I was appointed by the Illinois Supreme Court to fill a vacancy on the circuit court. So I've been a judge now for a little bit over 3 years.
And you like it?
Well, I love it. I was when I was sworn in, I told Judge Evans that if I had my druthers, I'll work wherever they assign me, but if I have my druthers, I wanted to work at child protection, hearing child abuse and neglect cases at juvenile court. And now since September of 2011, that's where I've been sitting, and that's where I go to work every day, hearing juvenile court cases involving abused and neglected children.
No, it's not only important, it's heart-wrenching.
Well, it can be, but you develop a sense of any professional, no matter what your profession is, you have to put aside your personal feelings, you put aside your personal life, and you just concentrate on the facts that are before you, and you make the best decision that you can. And you don't let it, you can't take it too personally, otherwise you won't be able to hear the next case.
No, that's true. Listen, even as a reporter, the fact of the matter is that when you're covering a story, you can't, if you take that stuff home with you. That's the reason there's such a high amount of alcoholism in the journalism profession, not to mention divorce and other things like that.
I've heard similar things said about the legal profession as well.
Interesting.
Right.
Interesting. It's funny, I had a teacher, Don Johnson, who was most recently the assignment editor at Channel 2. And journalistically, he was a groundbreaking black journalist. The very first with the Boston Globe, the very first with Newsweek. and he was one of my teachers at Columbia, and he basically offered to take us on a field trip to 6 different bars at 8 o'clock in the morning, where we would meet the majority of the Pulitzer Prize winning journalists in town.
Well, they say about certain good writers, it's important to get them early in the day, but now I'm not too sure about the validity of that advice based on your story.
Well, you know, I who knows?
Right. But getting back to your question about professionalism, any professional, you have a duty to be a professional. And so if I'm having a bad day for some reason in my personal life, or I'm not in a good mood, or if I'm not feeling well, I make a conscious effort every morning. I put all that aside because that has no effect, that should have no effect on the people who appear in front of me, and they deserve my undivided attention. And so my philosophy as a judge is every day is a good day because I'm a judge, and I'm a very lucky person for having that job, and I realize that every day, and I try to earn that and deserve it every day when I'm at work.
No, there's no question. There are a ton of people who are trying to be judges these days. And, you know, there's only so many positions available. And, you know, the fact is you do have very good bar ratings.
It's very gratifying after being a practicing lawyer for over 30 years when I was first referred by the Illinois Supreme Court to when they were considering appointing me, they refer you to the bar associations for evaluations. And it's not just filling out an application for a job and you just list your friends as references. You list every lawyer who you ever dealt with and every case you ever dealt with, every judge before whom you appeared, adversaries, colleagues, everybody. And I was very gratified that every single bar association either found me qualified or recommended, and there were no negative comments. So it's very gratifying after 30 years
the
of
comments are
practice
very
to have
good
that.
comments.
Right.
No, that's for sure. So you're on the campaign trail?
I am. The election's March 18th. It's coming up quick.
And what is there a typical campaign type day? I mean, you're on the bench during the day.
Right. It's challenging because I have to be at work every day, and I am at work every day, and you just do the best you can with hitting the campaign trail and getting your message out, your name out to the voters.
Yeah. How many given events do you hit in a given day?
Well, it varies. I mean, you can have 3 or 4 events in a day, up to maybe 1 or 2, and there's really no such thing as a typical day when you're on the campaign trail. You kind of have to go with the flow.
Yeah. Do you enjoy meeting all these different people?
It's very interesting. I've done a lot of appearances at churches on Sunday mornings, and you talk to the people in churches, and it's very enjoyable to get to meet people. But what you really understand is people generally have a hunger for knowledge about judges. What I hear oftentimes is people go in to vote for judges and they really have no idea who they're voting for. It's just you look at some names and you pick the name that perhaps is most appealing or sounds somewhat familiar, but you really don't, most voters really don't know anything about the candidates who are running. That's why programs such as yours, such as this, is you're doing a service to the community, helping people understand who it is they're voting for, because as you stated at the outset, voting for judge is a very important decision because people who vote, you vote for the president, chances are you're never going to meet the president. You vote for senator, chances are you're never going to meet a senator. You're never going to meet the governor. You might not even ever meet your state rep, but you're probably going to meet a judge. Yeah. And the judiciary is where the rubber meets the road. It's where people get to interact with government, and that's why it's incumbent upon us, judges, to do a good job so that people not only get a fair shake, but they perceive they're getting a fair shake. They can see that their position is being considered and that they're getting their day in court and they're being heard.
No, there's no question. It's very, very important stuff, and you know, it's a priority. And I wish we had more time because I want to espouse more along those lines. But the most important thing is you've got a website, don't you?
It's judgevilkelis.com. Vilkelis is common spelling, Vilkelis.
In Lithuania, it is common spelling.
It is very
no
common spelling,
it.
Yes, right. And my punch number is 146 on the ballot.
146.
It's the Connors vacancy, so it's when they list the judicial vacancies, they go by alphabetical order of the vacancies. So Connors is kind of close to the top.
No, yeah, among those races it is, and of course you do have very high ratings, and that definitely counts. And I want to wish you luck in the election and in the campaign.
Thank you.
And remind all of you to pick up your copy of Jewish Chicago, where you'll see the most detailed analysis of judges around. And I want to thank my cameraman, Sonny Hirsch. And there are a number of interviews we're doing today There will be, we're doing 14 interviews today, and there will be 9 people featured on these election specials, and it's part of a 90-minute showcase if you're watching this on TV. So please stay tuned, learn, and enjoy. It's very important to know who's running for judge. Judge Peter Vilkelis, thank you so much.
Thank you, Avi. Appreciate your time.
Thank you.